And so I'm pretty excited to have our fourth Kaleidoscope be with Maggie Farrar from England.
Yeah.
We have known each other now 20
years plus.
20 at least, about 2001 or 2 when we met. And I must say it's been a mutual discovery and exciting play ever since.
Yeah.
Better Together workshops that you were leading, you were head of community engagement, saying that it's a family, school, and community. How do we work together?
Yeah.
I know that was your area as I joined you in the work we'd been doing. And then I've been in Australia many years, and the joy of being with you and our good friends who had also come over to England.
Yeah.
And of course Maggie, once people meet you, it's forever. They took their study tours and you've been over there, and I know even currently you have an ongoing weekend check-in with people. I mean, you just live this way and have now visited us, and we're looking at what's emerged in a way you have come with both a website and looking at sharing with people. He's mentioned 30 newsletters where you just share people's stories and so on. They're all still available,
They're all available
on your website, which we'll promote. But that's resulted in this kind of handbook, Leading with Presence. I love your subtitle. It's an inside job. That's pretty good, Maggie. Grateful that you and Nigel decided to come visit us. So this has been just what I'd hoped for. Thanks for coming to New Mexico.
Loving it. Can I stay a week? Is there a spare bed?
No, well, we'll. That's a too wide-ranging introduction to say what's been on your agenda for the last number of years, because we haven't had much time to be together since COVID. Say more about where you've gone and out of this wonderful career and in so many positions, and where you're finding your best sense to serve the relational approach to people, so that they're living from their best selves, you might say.
Into your home and into your fireside, and I remember those. I remember those fireside chats in Australia, and how they help to cultivate a new way of being in community and being in discussion. In England, training school principals for many years, and I always had a sense at that point that envisaged was very outwardly focused.
Yeah.
So it was very cognitive, it was very logical, and it was focused on, how to run a school, how to improve a school, how to build a team, how to improve the quality of teaching. And it was very how-to, very outwardly, cognitively referenced. So underpinning that, I always felt, was a real modality, which was a driven, striving, doing mode. Just picking up, George, one of the things you've said about we deeply care. We absolutely deeply care. So one of the ways that I've helped to guide principals, because it is hard for principals to move from I've built myself up as this individual, so it's quite to open this door requires huge courage.
You were mentioning
huge courage.
Yeah.
So finding a way to open that door which connects with what I truly love about this work is the way the door will open, because that's such an invitation.
Yeah.
And it's an invitation for their staff as well. So
one of my favorites, as you know, I always used to use is people would say, well, how can I manage this? I have to control it. I'm with kids. they're not responding. Our friend and coach Bob mentions that. Why aren't people doing what we're mentioning? I like him. I try to say it pleasantly, you know, all of the good intentions. And we just, I could always help people move to this not knowing stage by saying, you don't have to give up control. You just have to give up the illusion you ever had any.
You gave me that advice one day, George.
Remember that on one, and
Yeah.
it kind of stays with people. So it's this sense, I think, which I'd love to talk about now for a few minutes, is when you can enter into what you're calling leadership presence, you change your relationship to all yourself and to others in a way that allows real learning, or in the model we're trying to promote, real partnership co-creation to occur.
That's right.
And that's what we're seeing, and I think you're giving the let's say the toolkit, the practices, the ways to consciously do that, which we didn't have before, and I've always done them mostly intuitively.
Yes.
But I know if you stay with people long enough, they finally know that's the risk you have to take. I want to, in a minute, talk about what might be also a short that you'd pull from some of this that might be an invitation to having some people join us around the fireside.
To open up the chat.
They'd have to pay for that.
Fine.
But in sense, just now this other invitation of just saying what we've learned about how this, you asked earlier, what have we learned about how this active not knowing and engaging attention, intention, attention, and what was the third?
Attitude.
An attitude. And that dance, which is a bit more than a recipe, I think. I don't know whether you always taught me to look at them as signposts or better than indicators, not check boxes really. But as you get this whole flow, we're beginning to feel that experiential, facilitated peer learning is what it means to be a relational leader. And I assume that's what leaders who gain that presence want to invite all of their staff and friends to. They can't tell them to be relational leaders. Am I correct on that?
You are, George. Yeah. And you're right, George. A lot of these traits or understandings we have about how we are in the world and how we relate to each other and the way we're all interdependent. We've always known it. But somehow an organisational context, and when we get into a position of leadership, we begin to question who we are in relation to that role, and that sort of knowing the answers, being in control, not showing vulnerability. Well, all Brené Brown's work has been so powerful on that. Somehow we lose that other sense of ourselves, which is the core of our leadership. We lose it. So you're right that there are a range of practices that that are simple. But like all practices, the more we do them, the more they become habits.
Yes.
Practice. Habits.
They become ways of being and doing,
and then modelling, and then it becomes into our DNA. And then we do it, as you were saying. It's almost just how you are. I can't remember the word you used.
Yes,
it just is your natural state of being.
It's your natural way from how you learn and how you operate. I think that part we found is, and I feel sad for all of us, because as myself and school leader, we all care deeply. But the sense, and I think COVID helped emphasize that, is we give up ourselves in the process.
That's the issue.
And we can't even find that anymore. And I think what you're suggesting is a way to not blame, but to reclaim.
Absolutely.
Because
I love that phrase.
Without you and who you are
Yeah.
coming into
Yeah.
it. What do you really have to offer as a leader?
I agree.
And that's what breaks, because the isolation is separating us from ourselves, from life,
Exactly.
and we're no longer able to
Exactly.
navigate or
Exactly.
move
So
in the
in
world.
these contexts that are deeply relational,
Yes.
that's why we sometimes flounder.
Yeah.
And so when we flounder, we reach for our plans and the way we've done things before. It just doesn't work in a world like today, which is complex and uncertain and interdependent. So within that,
That's lovely.
I would say there are so many elements. When I see leaders work through this, what comes through is so many elements of what makes great leadership.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not the strategy you've written. This is what makes great leadership.
Because that attention you're talking about, one of the things we've been sharing with people kind of requires your resources for that are then both an open heart and an open mind.
Yes.
So that because if many leaders bring that intention, in a sense the open mind, the sense I can pay attention to that, but without what you're showing in the practices, because it's just so dynamic. The relationship is always bigger than what you think and could posit. But the other thing we've been then agreeing with you and saying putting first, which is great to hear that story that people then don't want to be only task focused, even a good task. That they really do, like all of us, deeply believe that in the end, the relationship is always more important than any of the outcomes or things we're working on.
Absolutely right.
And so how have you seen people with that reframing, they don't want to be neglectful?
No.
Where then
You've
comes...
still got to run a school.
at that part, so where it seems like you reintroduce them to the joy that might be possible. To the real satisfaction of their calling and so on.
I hope
Any examples of that and
I mean,
the ahas that come for people?
I mean, I think one of the one of the sort of moves, when you're working with principals and teachers and you say something, they all write it down. Because that's something I can do tomorrow. I can do that. So one of the invitations I offer to them is next time they make a to-do list, do it on a piece of paper or on the phone or wherever. Fold the paper in half, and on the right-hand side write your to-do list for the week, the day, whatever. On the left-hand side write your to-be list. Because the to-do list, and I know, that'll be blasted out of the water in 10 minutes of walking into school. And then they've got a sense all day of never catching up. And never getting done what needed to be done, i.e. what was written on their to-do list. But the to-be list, to be present for every conversation, to ask more questions and give answers, to create micro pauses in the day where I can just stop, ground myself, breathe. What's going on for me right now? Can I be with it? Outer, inner, then move on. Just those little to be. You can still tick off your to-be list, whatever your to-dos are. Your to-be list wraps around.
That's right. That's the one. And then there's always that third one, the wonder of what you never, the surprises.
The surprises.
That's what's the grandeur of the whole thing. The real wonder and surprise, especially when we're in places of learning.
Well, I mean, for me, the invitation to be relational is every encounter in every moment.
Every encounter in every moment.
So again, with school leaders, they have multiple encounters every day, and they're often at speed, and the head teacher will almost always be the one to short circuit them. And possibly finish them before the other person is ready.
Even with their good intentions.
Even with the best of intentions, and they show their best of intentions often by giving advice and offering help, which wasn't actually asked for. So
many more sessions on this. Thanks, but I wasn't finished.
So I think this is where it starts. That sense of being present for every encounter. in terms of how I'm showing up.
Yeah.
How open I am to not knowing. So if when I look through my diary in the morning, I might see a meeting with a person and my heart will drop, and I'll think, oh, God, I'm looking forward to that.
Mm.
Because of the previous encounters I may have had with that person, and I just think it's going to go wrong. So I move into what we call anticipatory worrying about things that have not yet happened. And it coalesces my sense of that meeting, and indeed that's how I show up. So we'll often do work on looking at the diary and what's coming up and what thought processes, what happens when you look at that point in the diary, and just talk out loud what's going on in your mind. So this is where I might do work, which is, I think, part of the relational work, which is opening up your perspective, the sort of the open heart, open mind, seeing that frees. Yeah. So if I ever find myself, or with the head teachers, I hear them saying, she's a sort of person who, so, okay, so what if she was a different sort of person? What would she be like? Yeah. And if she was that different sort of person, how would the encounter go? Okay, so maybe go into that encounter. Exactly. Seeing her as a different person.
Now, as you work with folks, and I move to my own way I'd like to be learning in the future, is all of our years in training, supporting people, explaining. I mean, you know, both of us have good experience and have had some real success.
We've been around
people getting excited and motivated and feeling it was worth their time and energy. And I'm feeling with what you've just said and what we now know, a call to a way of being so together, facilitating our own learning relationally in a experiential relational way versus just a training where we check. People need support. Coaching always helps. You coach, and people will find a coach anyway. We love to do it if they do it. But I feel this longing for groups who want to get together where we almost, those discoveries, the surprises, the third part, become something we can share and explore with each other. And that being able to do that a few times would create a kind of community, another kind of community of practice, an experiential community.
Yeah. George, that's a fantastic invitation, because even in the conversation we've had, I don't know about you, but I've got all these people sitting here. I can see faces. I can see faces. And I want them to speak, because our conversation is always going to be limited by our own spheres of understanding and experience. So I think that sort of invitation to come into an encounter of a community such as this, to explore some of these themes, because there are a number of themes that we've touched on more deeply,
and that people want to keep exploring, because then they're already partners with us, because in our sense of it, just people understand, is the highest level relationally, and it's not like a right or wrong, it's not a taxonomy, but when you move through, in a sense, you recognize, you begin to form an understanding in a relationship, but at some point you begin to really value that work, those connections. And then that kind of results in a co-creative state or process or interaction. And I'm, like you, longing for people to teach me and me to teach them in that co-creative fashion, because I know that's where the gold is for our practice, and for relational leaders not to think there's a point you get there, but this is a way of being and doing with a flow, and I think we're close to inviting people. We may do this formally and saying if there's I don't know, in England, and I'm in New Mexico, and many of the people who will be listening and interested are in Australia.
But But, you know, time zones, we can make them work. And, I mean, you know, as an arbitrary number, I always think if it's on Zoom, it's nice to be able to see everybody on one screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Which makes it about 20.
About 20.
You know, I mean, it's just arbitrary. But I think if you're flicking between screens, I find that
Yeah.
for the community,
No,
not as binding.
It won't be as binding
Won't
for the
bind.
purpose we
Mhm,
have.
mhm,
So
mhm.
the iteration is the qualitative aspect of it, and it works like Pueblo teaching is. All life cyclical. You finish the cycle with us, you're not through, you just start another cycle with your staff, with your friends.
Yeah.
And me in my own interest, I'd like to do this cycle much the rest of my life,
Well,
because I'm
me
not
too,
going to help
George.
fix the schools anymore. I think we'll be putting that out there and seeing. I can think of many people I've known over the years, and might be some new folks that would say yes, and we'll set that up. We think we might even, after the new year.
Yeah, we begin. If people, you know, we begin. People come or they don't. We think again.
Yeah, the old. There's so many applications to that. Click on the button and see the invitation. We have a mailing list of 800.
Yeah.
They're almost all Australians.
Yeah.
On the invitation, video invitation, they see you and me and hear that, they're going to feel the invitation, and not just then some content, which people would sign up for anyway. And then you'll just say, go, because we'll have the date set, and because we have to structure it, which we can talk about a little bit, but we're ready to, you're ready to do that, right?
Yeah.
And we
Very
will
much so.
charge, and we can, you know, share how we do the income. I just know that will start moving more people into the way we're thinking this all could move in building a relational leadership community approach, because people are ready.
I think people are ready.
People.
I think the last
The
few years have made
longing's
people
there.
more ready. That the old system is broken. It was broken even before 2020. We knew that.
Yeah.
But this has really now shone a light on it. People do not want to go back.
People do
where they
not
were.
want to go back.